Today's world is facing big challenges. Using technology to make our communities smarter, safer, more efficient, equitable, and sustainable is no easy task. And for the pioneering visionaries that have taken on this challenge, we salute you. Welcome to Conversations with Smart City Pioneers, where we sit down with the best and brightest minds from around the globe, sharing how they're leading the smart city digital transformation revolution.
Hello, welcome to Conversations with Smart City Pioneers. I'm Sarah Festini, and today I wanted to share a little bit of a different type of episode where we share thoughts, revelations, and questions that come up while we're visiting with our clients and other smart people in the smart city space, and wanted to just pop on here and share some of my recent encounters. This episode is about how does smart city intersect with addressing the problems of homelessness. Interestingly, it is always a big topic. For many cities that we work with, it's actually a priority, maybe even priority number 1 and 2. And being able to address that with smart city technologies, I think, kind of makes people scratch their heads. And so I wanted to just share some of the thoughts that I have and some of the patterns that we've started to see over the last several years. And frankly, welcome the conversation. I think everybody wants to figure out this problem, and it's always sitting in the back of my head as I have a little bit of a personal interest and passion for addressing that. Homelessness as an issue. So wanted to kind of put it out there, and I welcome anybody to contact me actually to carry this conversation. I would love to see city innovators continue to tackle this and have an ongoing conversation around homelessness. So a little background on my own experience. Actually, I helped found the Project Homeless Connect Kansas City, and which is where I live and grew up. We started that in 2014. And so we've had, I think, 8 events. We had a couple breaks with COVID, and we are still going strong in our event. And we've seen a lot over those 8 years, and I personally learned just from the fire hose on how social services support and address homelessness and the variety of methods and models and philosophies used for that. I'm a believer in housing first, which is really the idea that you start with the housing and then people have autonomy in choosing the support services that they want to receive, whether or not they follow the protocols or stay on track with their services. Housing first is the priority. Because ultimately homelessness problem is that they don't have a home. So the simple solution is get them housed. So I'm a believer in housing first, and have learned a lot of things. But let me tell you, there was this officer, a police officer in Arizona city that we encountered, and I felt like I got schooled. It was awesome. He knew so much. He's a diamond in the rough. I wish I could duplicate him and put him in cities all over the country. And he really shared firsthand experiences in dealing with people on the streets, exposing gaps in the system, showing empathy in a way that provided action, but also support to these people in need who are vulnerable, and really meeting them where they are and building relationships with people too, that, he took a social services approach to everything he did. But he also knew the police safety and enforcement side. It was just very interesting. And he had so much to share. And I love encounters like that because it really just helps me open my eyes. And so one of the major takeaways that I wanted to share today was really this ladder analogy for somebody journeying through out of homelessness. And that, you've got your rungs of the ladder, and primarily there are 3 rungs to the housing ladder. So you've got rapid rehousing at the bottom, which would be someone going from the streets to an emergency shelter and getting housing as quickly as possible, especially for like single women-led families with children, usually the priority. But also, there are different types of emergency shelters, but rapid rehousing, then you have the transitional housing, and then you have permanent housing. And the goal being permanent housing. But his point was that we need more rungs on the ladder, that there needs to be more options, and there needs to be more, ideally, pre-shelter options. So this was in talks about the hotel project that they had going on at that time, which was a response, an idea coming out of COVID, where many cities did a similar model, but the city would lease an entire hotel and get folks on the streets housed as quickly as possible. The way those hotel models were run really differently depending on the city. But those hotel models have actually stayed, and they have not gone away. And so now there's a lot of murmurs in the communities about what are we going to do? How are we going to utilize this, the benefits of it, what we want this to look like, what can we take what we've learned and fix the things that have been wrong, and how can we continue to do the good things that have come out of this. So it's just really interesting how, COVID inspired some innovation in that space. But what other pre-shelter rungs can we add to that ladder? I think we also have to keep in mind homelessness is a cycle. It is not we're going to have 0 people homeless one day. That would be awesome if our system got people out as quickly as possible. But because people will always be going into homelessness, the goal is really not so much getting to 0. It's getting to the place where you have more people getting housed than are people going in, so that you're working towards like a deficit there. So I think foundationally, I just wanted to start with some of those understandings, and I'm hoping that any listeners are getting their wheels spinning a little bit on what could that mean, what could that look like, what solutions can we come up with, and what sorts of understandings or questions. Like, a great thing is, what questions do we need to answer? What questions do we need to look into? So with that, how do smart city technologies intersect with addressing the problem of homelessness? First, in my mind, I just have a few, and I welcome more. But first, to me, access to connectivity and devices is huge. This is absolutely part of the digital divide and equity conversation. But it is increasingly more important for people and families experiencing homelessness to have access to devices and connectivity. For healthcare, when's the last time you managed a medical bill or appointment without some sort of digital interaction? Job seeking and resume preparation and all of the things that you need to do for finding a job. What about remote work possibilities and all of the incredible opening of more and more remote work possibilities that have been enabled due to kind of the COVID effect, and how could that enable a mother with children at home to earn an income? So first, connectivity and devices. Second, data. I think about this one a lot. HMIS systems, or homeless management information systems, are a key element to managing a continuum of care, or a coalition or alliance, whatever you want to call it, within a community. It creates a less fragmented, more connected experience for people who are seeking those social services. Another key piece to that is management of the HUD-funded housing resources, better management and faster access for the people who need it the most. I was surprised to find out that not every community works collaboratively on this. Kansas City does this pretty well. Is there room for better? Absolutely. We can always be better. And HMIS systems are not the end all be all, but that's a big piece of looking at that. Data can be used in other ways too. We should be looking at data and trends and analyzing it so that we can create real, impactful, progressive policy that's both empathetic and supportive. Policies are enabling change. And if we're going to create ones that make real impact, then we need to be looking at the data to be included in those decisions. The other piece about data is really empowering innovators to think up new ways to tackle problems. We've worked with cities who do different hackathons, and they, it's kind of like this Hackavate or hackathon for homelessness. What about something like that? How can we be thinking up new ways to look at the populations who are most at risk and help them, or even further, people who aren't quite homeless, but they're at the at-risk level of being homeless. How can we look at that data and help get them access to emergency services and assistance so that they can maintain their current level of housing, and prevent more people from going into homelessness? The third way I think Smart City can intersect with homelessness is transportation and mobility. It is absolutely huge. From one community to the next, it's going to differ depending on, public transit and areas of commerce and residents, and affordable housing comes into the conversation, of course. But transportation and mobility technologies have the power to create more equitable, more inclusive, more safer, and more efficient transit options and mobility options. So people can have access to higher quality jobs that make a higher wage. They can have access to taking their kids to school, childcare. They can get better access to a broader range of housing options and areas to live. So the key, there's so many ways that smart cities are tackling transportation and mobility with technologies. I won't go into all those details now, but as a whole, that pillar of smart city, really improving that will impact in a positive way people so that they can combat homelessness and stay housed. So those were just the few points I wanted to share and came to mind on this episode. I welcome anyone to contact me at sarah.fastini@p3pioneers.com. I'll put that in the comments. But please contact me if you have more to share and you want to have a conversation about how you think people can address homelessness with technology and how cities can help combat this issue of really humanity. And we have an ethical obligation to address homelessness and keep people in housing. It is a right to life to have shelter. So thank you so much for listening today, and we'll see you next time.